Hunter x Hunter is about to return after a 4-year hiatus, so I thought it could be useful to do a detailed breakdown of the Succession War for those who haven't read it in a while, or just need a bit of a refresher. The Succession War takes up the majority of the manga, but prior to the Succession War, we have the Dark Continent Expedition arc, which can be easily summarized as preparations for the expedition across the sea. It includes Jing and Periston joining Beyond's crew, a lot of political negotiations, and the introduction of the 5 calamities. For this video, we're only concentrating on the events of the Succession War. If you need help with any of the actual concepts, I made a video on that a few months back. It will be linked at the end of the video. The Succession War begins with Kurapika accepting a job from a prince. He does not know which one it is, but he's hoping he'll get assigned to 9th Prince Halkenberg, as the 9th Prince has a connection to the 4th Prince and is not a total piece of shit. Unfortunately, his application was from the 14th Prince Wobble, whose queen was looking for applicants that would want to find Halkenberg. Kurapika also enlists the help of his friends to try to get at least one of them close to the 4th Prince, so that they can connect him to Kurapika. Unfortunately, it doesn't quite work out that way. Bisky and Hanzo were hired by the 13th Prince, Melody was hired by the 10th Prince, Basho was hired by the 7th Prince, and Izunavi, Kurapika's mentor, was hired by the 6th Prince Tyson. The Black Whale departs, and almost immediately one of Wobble's guards is killed. This quickly leads to the discovery that most guards do not know of the existence of Nen or the existence of the Succession War in the first place. Shortly after, 5 more of Wobble's staff are killed in the same manner as the first guy. At the same time, the first banquet is underway. Kacho starts to form a plan with Fugetsu and puts up a front as a disguise from this fact. Oito then returns to her room as well and sees the aforementioned carnage. Kurapika explains what's going on and requires the other guards to be honest at the cost of their life. 2 of the guards admit that they knew about the Succession War because they're actually informants from other queens. They claim they didn't believe the Succession War was actually happening due to the severity of the crimes that had to be committed. The hunters then discuss what the seed urn ceremony would have done, and in the middle of this discussion they see an Iwag from the 6th Prince's Nen Beast, and then suddenly there are a lot of Nen Beasts in the room, including the 12th and 13th Princes. Kurapika uses the emergency phone channel to alert the rest of the princes of the existence of Nen Beasts. He gets responses from his allies who confirm their existence. Bill and Kurapika then have a conversation about the nature of parasitic Nen Beasts, and shortly after all the beasts disappear. Well, except one, which happens to be annoying Sayir. Kurapika and Bill consider their conversation and discuss the position Kurapika is in, as Kurapika is trying to protect Wobble and get close to the 4th Prince in order to obtain his eyes. They then define what safety means for Prince Wobble. They determine an exit route would be ideal for the prince, but before they can continue, Sayir kills every other guard due to the Nen Beast controlling him. Kurapika swoops in and subdues him easily, revealing his final Nen technique, the Thieving Index Finger. This ability allows him to steal Nen from an opponent and use the ability one time. He can also give the ability to another person via Stealth Dolphin. However, this ability requires Emperor Time to be active, and as we'll learn later, Emperor Time takes an hour off his life for every second it's active. Bill tells Kurapika Sayir's ability, which is basically just a Pokeball. Kurapika then deems it useful and steals the technique. Without Nen in Sayir's body, the Nen Beast leaves. Shortly after, Sayir is arrested and explains what happened to him. Kurapika and Bill resume their conversation about escaping the ship, but at this point it's pretty much possible as the people needed to escape have been killed. These 2 are the last of Wobble's guards. Meanwhile, a couple rooms over, 7th Queen Savanti is diverting her guards from 12th Prince Mozane and sending them to 13th Prince Mariam. At the same time, Halkenberg requests to withdraw from the Succession War, not knowing it's impossible. Tobeppa wants to form an alliance with the 4th Prince to take down the top 3 as she sees them as disgusting. Shortly after, Theta and Salkov discuss how to explain Nen to the 4th Prince. They go back and forth before deciding the best course of action is to have Theta teach him, in the hope that she will be able to prevent him from making any progress due to the 4th Prince's potential for evil. We then see the 6th, 7th, and 8th Prince's reactions to Nen Beasts, and it seems like something has happened to Halkenberg's people. Theta comes face to face with the 4th Prince's Nen Beast, and it makes her decide that she must be the one to teach the Prince Nen in order to save the world from him. Back at the banquet, the 2nd and 1st Prince get into an argument, and it sets Benjamin off big time, which is how we learn that he already knows about Nen. The 3rd Prince is also interested in Nen Beasts and Nen in general. Benjamin learns of Nen Beasts from Balsamico, the captain of his guards. Balsamico calms Ben down, and they discuss what to do next. The introduction of Nen Beasts means they will have to alter their escort plans, and Kurapika revealing Nen and Nen Beasts means the 1st Prince has lost a major advantage. After considering some options, Benjamin decides he wants to assign his private guards to watch all the lower princes, while periodically reporting back to him with observations. They are supposed to protect the princes, but are authorized to use lethal force in self-defense. The 1st Prince's guard arrives at the 14th prince's room and kills one of the servants under the guise of self-defense. Him and Kurapika talk about who is the threat, and then Kurapika gives the nen ability he stole to Oito. This distracts the assassin, which allows Bill to get in close, which forces the assassin to change his focus to Bill, which then allows Kurapika to drain the assassin of his nen for a quick subdue. Kurapika bluffs having an ability that can force a confession, and the assassin then kills himself with a pill in his molar. This confuses Ben and Balsamico, who are listening via a bug. They don't understand how Kurapika has the strength to easily subdue the assassin, while also having an ability that can force the confession, so they decide to send over another guard, Babimia. Kurapika tells Oito about the time constraint on his ability, and they start searching for an animal to control. As they're looking, Kurapika gets 3 phone calls from 3 different princes: the 1st prince, the 3rd prince, and the 5th prince. And at the same time, Babimia knocks on the door. Kurapika wants to take the 1st prince's call, but Shimano, a servant for the 14th prince, connects him with the 3rd prince instead. They talk and decide to meet in a bit to talk about nen and nen beasts. After they're done, Kurapika talks to the 5th prince's liaison, as the 1st prince has already hung up. They discuss a truce, but it will be dependent on the return call in 1 hour due to Babimia standing outside the door. Kurapika then questions Shimano on her decision, and it turns out she's very knowledgeable on the personalities of the princes. She determined the 1st prince wasn't worth talking to, and the 5th prince would have waited a little longer. Kurapika asks her for advice on how to proceed with Babimia. Babimia decides to stay at the 14th prince's quarters, while Kurapika and Oito head to the 3rd prince's quarters. Bill stays behind as well. When Kurapika arrives at the 3rd prince's quarters, they start to talk about nen, and it's a great opportunity to explain nen to Queen Oito as well. We then get an overview of what every prince is doing. The 13th prince is eating, and it seems his nen beast has grown. The 12th prince is asleep, and her guards are conspiring to assassinate her to gain favor in the next monarchy. The 11th prince, Fugetsu, is crying. The 10th prince, Kacho, is throwing a fit, and the 9th prince, Halkenberg, wakes up to see all of his men are fine, but they are marked with a feather that symbolizes their loyalty to him. 8th prince, Sally claims he will change the world at the next banquet. The 7th prince, Luzurus, gets crunk with Basho. The 6th prince, Tyson, spreads her religion, and the 5th prince sends her guards to the 14th prince's quarters. The 4th prince is learning nen, and doing so at an alarming rate. Kurapika and the 3rd prince finish their conversation, and the 3rd prince gives Kurapika some additional guards. One of the 2 queens also leaves with them. 2nd prince Camilla is conspiring to kill Halkenberg and Ben, but she's also being surveilled by one of Ben's guards, Muze. And finally, the 1st prince is determining the best course of action, and he decides it's best to discover the abilities of Kurapika and Bill. Kurapika's party returns to the 14th prince's quarters, and he realizes that his power is more deadly than he thought. We then shift gears and get our first look at the 3rd tier, where Chrollo is looking very depressed. Kurapika's team continues to look for a bug so Oito can use the stolen ability. Shortly after, Kurapika asks all of his guests to move out of the master bedroom to talk about nen. This is when they see a cockroach. Kurapika uses this opportunity to show an example of nen. He uses Bill to mask Oito using an ability. This works on multiple fronts, as it demonstrates that nen is something that exists without giving away Bill's real ability and allowing Oito to do recon. Kurapika also tells the visitors that he wants to give every prince's guard the chance to learn nen, so the visitors spread the word. Using the bug, Oito gains information on the 13th prince and the quarters he's in. She also stumbles upon the assassination of 12th prince Momose, and she is the 1st prince to die. Oito freaks out and forces her guards to confirm what she saw. This causes the 1st prince's guards to have a conversation regarding what could have happened and the reason why Oito called out in the first place. Babimia leaves, seeming to have some sympathy for the queen. Then Bill confirms that 10 princes will be joining the class, and Kurapika faints. Meanwhile, Hanzo is mad about his failure as a guard and wants to get revenge. And the 4th prince hears about the timeline Kurapika set out for learning nen. It is apparently very different from Theta's timeline. She lies, saying that her timeline is correct, and his nen beast gives her a cut on the cheek as punishment. Finally, on day 2, Kurapika wakes up and realizes he was out for 9 hours, and Emperor Time was on for the entire duration, meaning he has lost 5 years off of his life. He convinces the queen to look into the 4th prince for strategic purposes, but she's conflicted until Wobble reaches out for Kurapika. She guides the roach to the 4th prince's room, and it is instantly killed by his nen beast. Oito freaks out and then apologizes to Kurapika before asking to learn nen. Kurapika tells her that she is already capable of learning nen. Classes begin, and we're introduced to a bunch of people that aren't that important, except for Bellorante, Bardajin, Muyon, and Furkov. Furkov activates his ability, which is an assassin of some sorts. Kurapika sets some ground rules, and Muhan immediately tests them. The class continues, and Furkov's ability activates, killing Bard again. One of the maids is immediately blamed, and Sakala wants Queen Psycho arrested, but the judicial branch denies the arrest due to circumstantial evidence and sends an investigator instead. Kurapika continues teaching, and the Phantom Troop beats up some thugs for information. They then ask for the room number of every single person over 6'2". We then see Momoise's casket in this giant room, which happens to have 14 caskets, which is weird considering there's one more than needed. Hanzo gets revenge on Mozone's assassin, and when he tries to return to the 13th prince's room, everyone is gone except for the prince's Nen beast. Back in class, Kurapika notices that there are people in the class that can use Nen but did not disclose it. This leads to a conversation with the 9th prince's guard and Sakala where they discuss the risk of the 9th prince's Nen ability, as well as the truce between the 3rd, 9th, and 14th princes. Then Camilla gets killed by Muze, who then gets killed by Camilla, and then eaten by her Nen ability, which brings her back to life. She goes to Benjamin under the guise that one of his guards tried to kill her, but it doesn't work and she's attempted for trying to kill him instead. She's then imprisoned and has Muze's ability on her. The ability was inherited by Ben thanks to his Nen ability, which allows him to inherit the abilities of his fallen guards. Hanzo heads to Kurapika's room to ask for assistance. They contact Virgie, who is not easy to work with as he is skeptical of Nen and Kurapika. Fugetsu wakes up and sees a weird door in her room. She goes through it and it brings her to Kacho's room, and she's quickly turned away for her own good. We then shift to the 8th prince's room where we see one of Benjamin's guards is getting ready to kill the prince's Nen beast. Then a coin drops from the 3rd prince's Nen beast, and we get an overview of the prince's Nen beasts in general. Another one of Ben's guards watches the multiplicative effect of Halkenberg's beast, and it raises alarms for Ben. Then Halkenberg goes to see his dad but is denied access. Fugetsu decides to experiment with her Nen beast, and Bitsuki convinces Virgie to learn Nen. He also allows Bellorante to leave the room, as he learns he also cannot re-enter. The court case over the death of Muze begins, and it is determined that both the 1st and 2nd prince will be under surveillance and under house arrest. Muhan is killed by Furkov, and the 5th prince's guards want to end the class due to the risk, but Bellorante talks them out of it. Then Melody and Kacho have a conversation in Morse code, as Kacho starts to formulate a plan. Another coin drops from the 3rd prince, and Fugetsu learns more about her ability. The 4th prince learns of Muhan's death, and we see the consequences of Theta's lie, and it is then revealed that the 4th prince is a specialist. Kacho requests a musical performance at the next banquet featuring her, Fugetsu, and Melody, and then we switch perspectives to the Phantom Troupe. They are being asked to move by the Mafia, and they oblige under the guise of cooperation. They split up to find Hisoka. The Mafia leaders are concerned about the troupe due to the possibility of imbalance. Then we're introduced to the leader of the Hailey family, Morena. She tells a bunch of people to kill a bunch of people in order to obtain Nen abilities, and she also kisses them. Finks, Phaeton, and Nobunaga head to storage to get their belongings. They run into a dead body, who was killed at the hand of a level 21 Hailey associate. He's also a fan of the Phantom Troupe. Mizai interviews a witness of the murder who turns out to also be a Hailey associate. The spiders in storage follow a trail of blood that leads to the Cha-Er office, where they talk to Kenny Wong, who is threatened by them. At the same time, Franklin talks to an old lady as he refutes that the troupe committed those murders. Wong and Finks finish their conversation and decide to work together for now. Meanwhile, Mizai talks to law enforcement about the crime sprees that are occurring. He basically convinces them that the princes are behind this, and the ship will sink if nothing is done. This is not completely true, but it's important for the law enforcement to believe for them to act. He and Bodobai agree that the fuse to a large-scale conflict is short, very short. They place the bottom 3 tiers under martial law and require the passengers to stay in their rooms while they are searching for the stowaways and criminals. They find 2 unauthorized people, Illumi and Prince Fugetsu. She and Mizai talk before she is returned to her room and placed under surveillance. Melody plays a melody and has a conversation with this guy. He offers to help, but Melody is suspicious because he has a strange heartbeat. Lihan has gathered enough information to summon the Predator, which successfully eats the 8th prince's Nen beast. He then switches places with Ushohi, whose ability is made for assassination. The room lockdown is lifted, and Halkenberg drops a letter off at the king again, except this time he gets through by threatening the guards with a gun. He talks to his father and asks him to stop the succession war, but he refuses. Halkenberg tries to kill him, but the king stops the bullet with Nen. Halkenberg then tries to kill himself instead, but his Nen beast saves him. The king tells him that in order to change the country, he will need to become king. This causes a change in heart in Halkenberg, and he will fight in the succession war until the bitter end. One of the 1st prince's guards confronts him, and using his newly acquired power, takes over his will. Kurapika notices another rumbling and steals his resolve. The 8th prince is killed, and the next banquet begins. Basho is a rap battle, and the rest of the concert continues until it's Melody's turn. She begins, and Kini leads Kacho and Fugetsu towards the lifeboats. They escape, and Kini kills himself, as they know someone has to take the fall, and he has been looking for a time to die. The girls succeed. They make it outside of the ship, but only for a moment. They are then threatened by these dark hands. Using Fugetsu's Nen beast, they escape safely, or so it seems. In reality, Kacho has been killed. It is her Nen beast that has rejoined Fugetsu in the tunnel. Finks' flock meets with the Cha-Er family. They agree to find the assassin for communication and passage passage to the 4th deck. They are then warned that a war is likely to happen soon, based on the Mafia family settlement system. This states that a family member can be killed by another family member, but only if they get post-mortem confirmation within 24 hours. Morena gave no notice within 24 hours of killing one of the Cha-Er people. The troop members agree that killing Morena might be the fastest path to their goal. Then we go back in time a bit to see the 4th prince create a second Nen beast. He then begins training Zetsu with Theta, and after accomplishing a perfect Zetsu, Theta kills him. She plans to kill herself as well, but the prince is not really dead because of his crazy Nen ability. The attempt is also interrupted by Melody's performance. Theta then passes out and gets threatened by his Nen beast. She will cease to exist as a human the next time she lies to the 4th prince. The 4th prince then invites Melody over. Theta wakes up with a rash, and they agree that it's best that Salkov takes over, stopping the 4th prince from learning Nen. She tries to understand what happened. Meanwhile, Melody is being detained for her performance and for her own protection from other princes. She uses this time to think. We learn that Halkenberg's ability forces the soul of one of his marked followers into the person he shot, giving them some control. He goes over some hypothesis of where Shikaku's soul went, and he asks Sumidori to run an errand for him. Then there is another rumbling, felt in the 7th prince's room, and Sumidori kills himself in the name of Benjamin, making it seem like it was Ben's command when in reality it was Halkenberg. Ben summons his soldier back from 1007 and gets a report of Halkenberg's ability. Sumidori is returned to his body, and Kurapika is also trying to gain information on the rumbling. He then starts teaching water divination, and the 1st prince's guards discuss their lack of progress in recon. They also note that they will not have to instigate anything yet. The 4th prince continues his training, and we see his side of the events of his murder. Basically, he gets to see 10 seconds into the future when he goes into Zetsu. He wants to use this power to conquer the world. The 1st prince's guards discuss different ways Kurapika might open aura nodes, and then we get to see Kurapika's process for opening aura nodes. He opens Maora's nodes using the thief chain, and this confirms to the 1st prince's guards that he is not manipulating anyone. After this experience and a conversation with Kurapika, Maora trusts him. Bill and Kurapika have a heart-to-heart, and they continue their awakening. Maora talks to Tabeppa about the Nen awakening classes, and about the relationship between the 14th and 3rd princes. Then the Predator guy determines it's best to act before everyone develops Nen abilities, as they could get in the way of his job. He thinks it's best if he goes after the 9th prince's Nen beast, but Ben's deputy wants Leon to move in a different direction. Tabeppa also thinks she has an understanding of the situation. She understands Sale Sale is dead, and wants to figure out why, putting Leon in danger since he is doing recon against her. Then Kurapika feels another rumble. The 1st prince then learns the specifics of Shikaku's death, and after some deliberation they decide it's best to continue the investigation. The next day they receive a radio message saying Halkenberg is basically invincible, so the 1st prince decides the best way to stop Halkenberg is to stop him from using his ability. They put Halkenberg on trial, separating him from the rest of his guards. At the same time, Giuliano is getting manipulated by Tyson. They find themselves more connected to Tyson than ever before. They don't even know if they're going to be able to walk away from Tyson once they reach the new continent. Tyson throws a surprise party for Giuliano, and they are moved to tears. Halkenberg's trial commences and quickly comes to a standstill. No one wants to give up information due to the risk associated. One of Ben's guards believes McKay has been manipulated into killing the 7th prince, and Basho agrees. Just kidding, he thinks it's the 1st prince behind all of this. We are then introduced to Moswana, who curses Benjamin to death, and we then learn Camilla has a private guard assigned to each prince who wishes them to death via post-mortem Nen. One of them wants to infiltrate Kurapika's class to curse Wobble. Then the number on the 3rd prince's coins increase. The 3rd prince believes these coins are a gift for the people after he wins, and he leaves to meet with the boss of the ZU family. The 3rd prince asks the Onion guy to research Nen and Nen beasts, while the search for Hisoka continues as he is not on the 4th deck. The Onion man orders the death of Morena, and we are introduced to Lynch and Zakuro. They arrive on deck 3, and a fight breaks out shortly after. Zakuro and Lynch win. They follow their leader while killing some guards. I believe they're headed toward the High Leaf family, and that's it. That's where they end. Luckily, it's coming back in just a couple of weeks. So thank you for watching. I'm going to do a whole recap of the entire show next week. So if you need help with everything else, be sure to subscribe. It would really help me out a lot. And if you made it all the way to the end of the video, you obviously like the content anyway. That's it for this video. So I'll see you on Tuesday for another Chainsaw Man breakdown.